This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got us a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! It's the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
Woo! What up, though? It is a Thursday, and clearly by the beginning of this show, we've figured out that, damn it, we're all getting old in this fucking video, but one of us is at least having to glow up on her way through this life, as we've got the return of the new strawweight BKFC champion, Miss Britain Hart Beltran. How are you doing, champ?
I am doing great. I really am. I know that it's been like a whirlwind, but I'm super excited to talk to you guys and just be on here and yeah, and just kind of show part of our crazy life, and it really never stops. And especially when you get to the top of the mountain, you know, sometimes the air up there is like thinner and you're like, whew, I gotta work extra hard to be here. But hey, I'm super glad. I'm exactly where I wanted to be.
I like that. The area at the top's thin. I like that.
Well, you talk about that thinner air, you know, this fight's different than the last time we talked to you. You know, the last time we chatted, it was before your fight with Beck Rawlings. You know, you guys were fighting a weight class up. Now you're down here at strawweight, and now the strawweight queen. So, I mean, I guess that's as good a place as any to start. Tell me about the move down to strawweight. How was camp? Do you like being down here as opposed to 125? Tell me about the prep for the fight.
Yeah, so one, super clever on the thinner part. I love that. But yeah, honestly, I boxed. You know, if you guys look at my box rec, you know, I was at 116, 118, you know, and I did some other weight classes too, because it was always like being a female was always pitched and sold to me. Oh, you got to be flexible in the weight classes. There's not as many. But it's like, you know, these girls that are fighting at 125, 135 are really cutting from 145, 150, you know, and I've had a lot of people like give me that advice. They'd be like, no, like you need to be 125 max. And that's even like pushing it. Like you need to put some muscle on, you know, eat more, get a cheeseburger. And so that's what I was doing. I'm like, man, my body is just naturally thin. You know, before I started the fight with Paige Van Sant, I was 118. I run camp for Paige, and my coach saying, don't run anymore. Like, you're underweight. Like, you can't run. You're 122. You're weighing in at 125. Like, we don't want you to lose more weight. But I'm thinking in my head, but yeah, I want my lungs to be good, and I want to have good cardio, though, too. So it's just like, you know, knowing that, you know, I don't want to make the excuse, and I know it's definitely a shit talker's platform to be like, oh, Britain couldn't win the belt at 125, so she ran to the lower weight class. But it's like, no, not really. I actually stepped up and fought the girls at 125 over and over and over, and still showed that I was a bad. Now I'm honored at having something, as you guys saw at my weigh-ins, my energy, my interviews, my demeanor. I'm not sunken in. I'm not dried out like a raisin. This is like, and, you know, we like really want to push that no matter what size you are. It doesn't matter if you're 180. It just felt better for me to have this energy and not feel so like, oh, you know, I can't lose too much weight, or let me eat a greasy cheeseburger. You know, all those like bad habits I was kind of practicing, I really kicked out for this camp. So it's like, a machine, which is really what you want and what we train for. And I feel like, you know, I really did that. I feel like if anybody watched my fight back, they're like, wow, this is the best you ever looked. And you were a well-oiled machine, which is really just because I didn't have all that extra grease and lube on me.
Well, you talk
about just a couple months back when we had you on the show, you were actually talking about that going into your camp, how you were trying to gain mass and size because you felt as though you were undersized at the division. So to your point, I feel like really it was just they opened up. BKFC has finally reached that point where they're starting to really evolve in their divisions. They're allowed to. They got more leeway where they can bring in a women's 115 division and actually start to work their way to build that division up. And what a better champion than, to your point, somebody who should have probably been at 115 the whole time, but has shown their worth against a bunch of top level 125 girls out there. So it's just such a great, transition. And I think it really just boils down to them being able to finally have the leverage to open up these divisions a little more.
Absolutely. And it just kind of shows, like patience is a virtue. And sometimes that's one of my character flaws. I am very impatient. And I'm like, well, I don't want to wait till the 115 class opens up. I'm just going to do this.
Yep.
And, I'm a risk taker that way, and it worked out for me. But now that because I did that, with me being patient, what BKFC's only been around for 4 or 5 years, it was only legal in like 3 states. Now it's opening up everywhere, and these new weight classes are coming up, and the better athletes, better fighters, more tryouts. And it's just really exciting because now I can be like, well, I was an OG and I was a pioneer for the sport, but now I'm also really a real force to reckon because I capitalized on it when everyone else thought it was crazy.
Yeah. Well, not only an OG, but somebody that truly built their game and really stepped up their level throughout this BKFC career that you have. I mean, no offense, but the first fight to where you are now in your performances is just levels ahead. You really have shown that you've developed this bare knuckle game. Like you really are one of the top level girls in, all of bare knuckle. And now with the belt around you, it just, to your point that you were saying earlier, you can either get to the top and start to rest, or you can look for things to continue to improve on. And that's what I'm starting to see. So.
Exactly.
Well, you could definitely see that in this last fight. I mean, you were just walking your opponent, Carissa Segala, down, the whole fight for 5 rounds. You really pushed the pace. You were throwing more. You could see that she was trying to catch that one big shot in between the flurries and stuff. You mentioned a little bit about feeling healthier down at 115, but even at that, you still came in at 113.6, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, you still were underweight there. So, I mean, you were really ahead of the game as far as camp went. I only know that because I was just watching the fight back to make sure I had my shit together before this. But that's part of doing our job. But with that being said, how did you feel with the opponent change in this fight? Obviously, Carissa wasn't the original opponent for you. Did that change anything for you, or was it kind of one of those things where it was like business as usual?
It was honestly a mix of both. I feel like my first initial shock was, the biggest thing for me was the difference in the weight. And so I was excited to be at the strawweight for 115, because I'm looking at those opponents being more my size. When I heard it was Teresa, I'm looking at her as a flyweight. Like, I'm looking at her as being super competitive. She fought, she went in there and last all 5 rounds with Pearl. She's fought, she had the fight of the night with Taylor. She had fought Jessica Link, who's an extremely big opponent. She actually fights over at BYB now, like 130, 135. Tall, big opponent. And then I think she did try Angela. I can't remember her last name, but I'm also a tough opponent. And, I'm looking at it as, well, because she has the size. She has the advantage. Even though she might be a little shorter, she has a muscular base. She was gearing up for Paige Van Sant, which is, another bigger, tough opponent who, was even a catchweight because, she's bigger. So I was kind of looking at it like, oh, here we go again. I'm really, really at a flyweight weight once again. But, with the help of my team and everybody else, look, if they would have called you, Britain, imagine if the roles were reversed. If they would have called you for 4 days to fight her, what would you said? And when they pointed it out like that, I was like, oh, I would have said yes in a heartbeat. So, to me, it was a really great process of having my team back me up. But, when you mentally prepare for something for 5 weeks, like every day, breathing, eating, sleeping, just envisioning beating this one particular girl with this particular skill set, but it was also really great. My husband, Joey, was like, he also used an analogy with my son who told me he failed a quiz, and I had to drill. He was like, wow, that's not nice, Mom. And I'm like, well, it's not nice. You got an F on a quiz. And he's like, but it was a
I've heard
pop
that a
quiz.
few times.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, I gotta do my mom duties and be like, it's not okay, but why? And he's like, well, it was a pop one. I wasn't ready. I'm like, you have to be ready at all times. So Joey's looking at me like, practice what you preach, ready at all times. I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Touche.
You gotta love when you get that advice that just like kicks you in the mouth and you're just like, well, shit. That sucks. Well, with that being said, that brings up a question I had for you. So you talk about, we talk about you having the opponent change and all that. Obviously you're not the only one who had one of those this past weekend with all the news of what happened with that with the UFC. So you having to have that happen in your fight. What are your thoughts on what we saw with the whole Hamza thing?
Yeah, I think it was, I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. The internet loves it. They're talking about it. I know, they were constantly reading through the posts and the comments and the memes. So, I mean, overall, I think, it's entertaining in some aspects, but, it is business and shit happens.
Yeah. I mean, shit happens, but when you give up potentially the big step up in your career of, fighting a Nate Diaz all because you came in that high overweight, like there's mistakes, and then there's like, he fucked up.
Did you give
one.
a shit?
Yeah,
but I mean, hey, at the end of the day, you can see the UFC wants him to be one of the big stars. I know we've already talked about this on the show multiple times that me and weight cutting and all that shit, that's like one of my biggest things. I hate when somebody misses weight like that because I've been in the situation in boxing where I fought somebody bigger and it didn't go so well for me. So after that, I wasn't such a big fan of it. So for me, I wasn't the biggest fan, but I gotta say, I feel like those matchups ended up being way better. And I mean, Nate ended up getting to go out the way he did. So I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care what the fuck he said in the press conference. I believe with every fiber of my being, that motherfucker got paid, or he wasn't staying on that card. There ain't no way in hell he didn't get some kind of big ass bump, because they're all trying to say they didn't. But I don't know. If it were me and knowing Nate Diaz over the years, that sumbitch got some money.
Right. I would imagine so too. But like I said, it's all, you never know
business.
Really what happens behind and what's, going on. So I'm just like,
it is what it is.
Fans want, gives the fans something great to talk about and debate. And yeah, you're right. It is business as far as like on the contract, that number is the number for a reason, and we stop holding ourselves to that standard. But there's so much other dumb stuff that goes into it.
Yeah.
I couldn't argue that at all. I feel bad because I cost my parlay that night got fucked because of that Li Jingliang fight, and I feel bad because I cost not only myself, but Christine Faria lost money because of my parlay too. So I feel like an asshole at this point because we both lost some fucking money because of that Li Jingliang fight. But speaking of fights that are winning, now that you're down at 115 at a more healthier weight for you, what do you see as next? We don't know too much of who's all going to be in this weight class and, what's that going to shape up like. So what's next for you? Do you want to take another fight down at 115? Do you see yourself bouncing back and forth between 125? I mean, where do you see yourself going from here?
I would honestly like to stay at 115 because it's my weight class and something that I really want to be dominant and like really prove and show, the undisputed, like that really means something. And so I feel like if I fluctuate between the two, it kind of takes away. But at the same time, I feel like the 115 weight class does still need to be a little bit defined on who standouts, because you got to think anybody really coming into it right now are going to be debuters or coming from a different, sport. And it'll still be debuters at the end of the day in a new sport, bare knuckle. And so it will always be like something I feel like people are going to be like, oh, well, of course Britain's going to win because I have like 9 fights experience now, which is huge, But then you got Jenny Savage, who, I'm sure she thinks that she's the uncrowned queen on 115 and she needs that shot. But, and I think we were respectful at the last fight somewhat, but I know there's definitely social media banner and it's just, again, so much dumb shit behind it. But, my thing is that we already fought at 125. And if you look back at the stats at it, just so we're not being opinions, we're being facts. If you look at the stats of it, I weighed in at 123 and she weighed in at 124. So I was a smaller opponent when I fought her in flyweight. Then just past weekend, when we weighed in, I weighed in at 113 and she weighed in 114.6. So again, smaller opponent. So the fact that she thinks she'll be more advantaged at this weight class against me, I think is like really just doesn't make sense in the numbers. And because I did have a third round knockout TKO off of her, I just feel like rematches to make sense have to be like close, like go the distance, split decision, doctor stoppage, something out there. But you know, then I would be like, well, I mean, I'm not asking for handout or easy fights by any means, but I mean, sure, if she wants to run it back, we'll rematch it. But I just know that it doesn't make sense for me and her to get into like this heated verbal battle and be mean to each other when I don't think the promotion is going to make that fight until a couple other girls come up and do something. But, you know, I'm the champ now. They can't leave me sitting for a long period of time, I would imagine. So, I mean, it's, you know, and then for me, you know, I am super competitive. I love what I did at 125. I still really want to be a champion at 125. And I still feel like, you know, with the improvements and some things that I'm doing, you know, I will have to put more weight on to be competitive with Christine because Christine's very big and skilled. So she's big and skilled. And that's going to be a lot of work on me. That's like not a 6-week fight camp, maybe like more of a 3-4 month fight camp for something like that. And I definitely think about it in the back of my head a lot, but I don't want to be distracted really at like the goals that might be put in front of me, because at the end of the day, the boss man, the matchmaker, BKFC, they're behind it. I'm really trying to have like better, more positive energy, which I, you know, have proven. I'm so thankful for my opponent who stepped up. You know, I showed that we can be respectful in this sport. And really, when you guys see me not being respectful, it's because I'm biting back. I'm barking back. I'm watching these people bash me online over and over. And I'm like constantly taking the high road. And so finally, I'm like, you know what? You know, I'm a freaking lion. I'm going to go and like snatch these little hyenas up from all the dumb shit they're barking about. And, you know, it gives the fans something to talk about. But at the end of the day, you know, my mental health is definitely worth and valued a lot more. You know, that, you know, really what's next on the agenda. I'm going to the, you know, Boys and Girls Club on Tuesday. I got a few high schools I'm going to go visit. Like, those are the things I'm really looking at now. I'm really looking at training other fighters, coaching other fighters, and just really building not only women, but all fighters in the sport. I just heard Virginia opened up bare knuckle boxing. So, you know, there's 2 champs in Virginia right now. That's going to be really cool.
That's what's up, though. I mean, you really gotten to be, like Corey said, you know, one of the you know, the mainstays for BKFC. You were one of the first ones that were really out there, and now you're out here doing, you know, now you're doing your thing down here at 115. I mean, I totally can respect that, being, you know, focused on that. You know, you brought up something that brings up one of the questions that we got via Instagram. You know, I got to tell you, out of all the people that we bring on here, whether it be wrestlers, fighters, musicians, all that kind of stuff, you never know who's going to roll through here. But you've got, you know, your fans, I swear, every time, both times you've come on, are in the comments with like 15 questions. So, you know, you talk about enjoying life. You know, one of the biggest things I enjoyed after a weight cut was being able to eat. So I guess that's as good a question as any to pick out of there. What have we been eating now that you got, you know, that belt around your waist?
Oh my gosh. So I will definitely tell you, I was like the whole camp, only vegetables and protein, right? And then some fruit. And I'm like, man, I'm going to eat bread and cakes and ice cream and cheese. And now that I've been eating so clean and healthy for like 6 weeks, when I eat this bread, I'm like, oh, my stomach hurts. So every time I've gone out to eat some delicious bomb ass food, my stomach hurts after. So I'm kind of upset about it, to be honest with you. So anyways, I'm like, damn, I freaking can't even enjoy these freaking French fries because they make my stomach hurt. But You know,
It sounds like me and ice cream with Crohn's.
Yeah, but it's still, you know, I've definitely been doing it, but my poor husband has to deal with me crying about it for, you know, hours. I'm like, dude, I feel like I ate an unlimited buffet and I really just had a waffle and some bacon.
That's
One
what
of my
happens.
old
Your
training
body-
partners. What up,
Covered in
Travis?
Nutella.
That's what happens. You start eating
That's what
too
we're
healthy
talking
for
about.
too long, your body gets used to it. You really, like, the smallest of things will just throw you for a loop, man. Before I had my children, I was much healthier eater than I am now.
You
And yeah,
motherfucker, you ain't been a healthy eater in 20 years of knowing you. Who the fuck are you
bullshit. If you, that must have been the
Yeah.
time we weren't hanging,
The
because I
guys
was
that you
eating
didn't know
nothing
me
but
before.
organic. Yeah. But either way, once I had my children and started getting back into the fast food diet, essentially, yeah, my system's been a wreck ever since. So I can completely understand that where you're coming from on that one.
Well, Corey, I've been flapping my gums for a minute. What do you got for the champ?
I know. So champ life, what's the Disneyland? What's the big trip? Where's the celebration? What's the big plan?
Yeah, so we usually do something crazy like that, but you know, I always try to be so true to my word. I said that the belt was for me to take to other people who needed to see it, other people who needed to be inspired. And what better time, you know, right now that I have it, it's like, well, you know, you want to do it while the iron's hot, like while it's fresh in people's minds. Like this just happened. And that's kind of more of like the angle we're going at, not really vacation or me and Joey's time. It's more of like, this is what we wanted, and it was to help other people. Like we have a bigger, higher purpose. And, you know, I feel like, you know, we're really going to be rewarded for it. I know I've had some really dark days. I know some haters and some, you know, people that just hate and can't stand them at the top. They're going to use any and everything to try to bring me down, to try to define my character. But, you know, the truth is yeah, I've had some dark roads. I had some bad things happen to me in the past. And it's not for me to sit here and explain myself. For me to sit here and say, whether you think I did it or not, your opinions of me, it could be true, it could be not true. The fact is that I was in such a bad place. I fought my way out of it, and now look at me, you know. And that's the thing that we really want to show to these kids, these teenagers, these young adults that might think, oh, you know, I messed up. Oh, I live here. I don't have parents. My dad died. You know, I'm addicted. You know, I'm an alcoholic. I'm not going to be nobody. I'm a loser. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you can be rock bottom and fight your way up. Like, I really am like a walking proof on it. And I'm not like showing that for like, cause it looks good. And, you know, my life behind the camera is really shitty. Like, you guys are seeing exactly like what we do, and the people around us that are gravitating to us. It's because we're genuinely happy. We're genuinely helping other people. And it feels better that way, you know? Like I said, when we go around, we're driving this beat up 2004 Chevy Trailblazer, like, you know, but it's allowing us to go where we need to go and get out and spend the time to travel to these places that just might need somebody to like smile or train with them or tell them, you know, hey, you know, this is what happened to me, and we'll sit down and have a little, you know, little talk. And, you know, we're really good at doing that. And it's been awesome for me and Joey to grow together as a couple and to grow together as a teammates, and, you know, just how many people that we've really like helped, and then people that, you know, really they're helping us. Like, you know, Hannah, I know she might be in that chat room. Like,
She is.
Canada, a different country. You know, she's still in school. And to me, sometimes I'll message her and be like, man, I'm having a really crappy day. I'm sorry I'm not texting you back. I'm not ignoring you, but, you know, this is what's going on. And she's like, you know, just breathe. You got this. I believe in you. You're my hero. And hearing that from somebody is so much. Like, she thinks I'm saving her and I'm her hero, but really, how many times has she saved me from just a text message letting me know I can still do this, and that I'm still a shining light to people, especially people that have been broken down, have had dark roads, have passed, and to help those people is really what our vacation is about. And that's why I said we're like We're going up here to see my kids. We're going up here to see the Boys and Girls Club, these high schools, and then we're coming right back down to Miami to help somebody train for their fight October 15th. You know, we're just helping in so many ways we can right now until 2023. And then I think I'll start focusing more on like what's next for me. But really, vacation until the end of the year is about everybody else who helped me get to the gold, which is the end game.
I like that answer. I like that.
Hell yeah, man. I mean that's as good a answer as you could have asked for. Well, I've got a couple more questions for you. We've got a couple questions in the comments that we should get to. Since you brought up Joey, that's been a question we've been getting. You know, when do you know if we are going to see Joey stepping back into Bare Knuckle FC ring anytime soon?
I definitely, can tell you this. So Joey is, such a fighter, and he never gives up. He does everything with not even 100%. Like it's like 10,000% to the point where you're like, all right, slow down. So, but he is a fighter. It's definitely who he's been for, over a decade, and something like that just doesn't go away. So, he really comes alive in the gym. He really comes alive working with other people, and they do too around him. You can see people really respect him and really love being with him in the gym atmosphere. And so with that being said, I know Joey's not done. I know Joey, with his knockout last time was really unfortunate, but it just shows, one, it's heavyweights. It's a different animal altogether. But, he was going through some shit, and I think he's allowed the grace, and I think other people are not ready to see him go out like that. And, he's working really freaking hard, and I know he's really trying to hone in on some skills. And so with that being said, it's not for nothing. So I'm sure by the time 2023 gets here, we'll have something exciting and cool to talk about that has happened.
Well, you already know what time it is.
Okay.
The door's always open with that kind of thing for us. So, Joey, if you're listening to this, which I'm sure you are because you're probably sitting in the seat next to her, the door's always open, brother, man.
Yeah.
All right. All right, here's the other question we got from old training partner of mine. What up, though, Travis Spivey? To the champ. After being an underdog for a long time, how does it feel to finally be on top? And mentally, do you feel like this is an accomplishment goal, or do you think this is the beginning of a new chapter? No. I'm super supportive of the underdogs.
Yeah, this is a super great question. It's like I honestly can tell you, like, again, I just want to win a title, just one title. Like, I'm not being greedy or whatever. I just want to win one, and then I got some things I got to do, which is what we've already talked about. Now that I have it, it's so heavy, and I'm like, whoa, like it's weird, and I'm like, it's here, like, and the fact that my face like is not like black and blue, and my hands are better now.
That's always
I'm
a plus.
Like, it feels weird. It's like, and I've gone through so many battles and so many wars. I've had to listen to so many people's criticism and hate and negativity. And I've cried about it a lot to my close friends, and especially Joey. And they told me this, like, hey, I'm sorry to tell you this, I don't want to break your heart, but when you win that belt, it's not going to go away. People aren't going to love you anymore. If anything, it's going to put a big bullseye on your back. People are going to come after you. And, you think it's good enough, but it's not. And I kind of like brace myself for that. And I've seen little hints of it. I know there's a lot of people that are, but I will say this. I feel like pretty damn good about it. Like, I'm like, oh, the queen hand to people who run their mouth and be like, it's good. So, and it's definitely given me my peace. Yeah, he doesn't see people who need it because it's me, and it's given me my peace. That these writer, I can't be. I'm really which is why it's hard give me I somebody had to see it. Like, someone had to give me a chance. And, you know, I listen to like The Rock, you know, Dwayne Johnson's motivation videos and how many times he was told no. And he's like fucking one of the greatest, like, most successful people out there. So just in that, like, again, like, we're always motivated by people that go out and do the impossible because they believe they were great and believe that they were bigger than what they were getting, and didn't take no, didn't accept no. So yeah, it feels good, but also like not in a surprising way besides how heavy the belt is. But it's like, yeah, like I knew this day would happen. Now it's here, and now, you know, now what? But, you know, again, not really now what, you know, more so in my career, like, oh, am I going to stay at 115? Am I going to bounce back and forth? Like you said, you know, these are questions I really, you know, don't even know 100% myself. All I know is that I have to be the best version of myself, and you guys haven't seen it yet. So I got to go out there. I got to find people that, you know, that give me a why, you know, people that I need to inspire, something I need to help build and make better, whether it's face tougher opponents, whether it's go and do meet and greets, you know, whatever that storyline asks from me is, I'm prepared to do.
I don't know, Corey. I like it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, somebody like you, where you mentioned the meet and greets and stuff like that, you definitely seem like somebody that would feed off the positive energy of like something like a meet and greet, and having the fans that actually show up in your corner like, hey, to your point, you inspired me to do this, or your trips to these boys and girls club, like that. You'll be able to look back at that stuff like 5 years from now. Maybe one of these kids that you were in touch with will get back, you know, in touch or something, and share some story with you, how you inspired them to make change in their life because of what you brought to them. So shout out for all that. You know, that trying your best to bring your belt to actually be a positive thing in your community is a huge thing.
Yeah, it really is. And it's like, you know, again, it wasn't always that way. And it's kind of even like of a better feeling now. Like, you know, it used to be a time where, you know, the world, I felt like, was very much against me, and everything I did was wrong. And then just to have it and come back, and those same people be like, wow, you know, you're a champ, you're so awesome. It's not even them holding like the negativity or the chip on my shoulder now. Like, with the belt, like, it really helped me. And that's why I said all these other people that helped me get there, it helped me be able to have that feeling to go back and not be bitter and be like, well, remember when you said I couldn't do it? It gives me a chance to come back to that same place and be like, and now I'm here to help, you know, like, it's just one of those things it's crazy how life comes full circle.
And you'll be able to draw inspiration from that stuff yourself as well, like beyond just helping people, which is always a great thing itself, but you'll be able to draw inspiration from all the stories that you'll be able to interact with all these people as well. So
Yep, absolutely.
I like it.
Like, yeah.
My bad. It lagged on my end.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was saying on my screen it like froze for a second, so I thought you didn't say anything. That's the only reason I said something.
No, you're good. I was like, well, you know, the point's made. But I'm like, yeah, it's just something I'm like I'm super passionate about it. It's kind of what keeps me going. Like, you hear and see these things a lot, and you just don't even know, you're not even aware of it, like, by being yourself. Like, just one little quick story. I have thousands of them. But, you know, I was like working in the gym one day with these two boys, and, you know, it was a lot of fun. We're like sparring, and, you know, I was holding pads for them, and they were smiling. I didn't know any better, you know, just like, they're just kids, right? You know, I go outside and I'm like talking to somebody else, and the mom comes up to me and she's like, she puts her hand on my shoulder and she's like, I just want to thank you so much. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm just being me. And she's like, no, like, you know, they lost their dad last year. I really haven't seen them smile like this in a very long time. Like, this is the first time I've seen them smile. And I was just like, you know, like, man, like, you just really don't know what you're doing. And by being positive and happy, even when you don't feel like it, like really what it could do to somebody that you have no idea what they're going through. Because to me, they just seem like awesome, like smiling, amazing boys. And to hear that mom say that to me, there's really things like that that make me like really know that this is truly why I was put here, and my purpose, and all the crazy things I went through, because I know what it feels like, you know, from experience, and then from being put into it and seeing these people's reactions by literally just being a positive version of something that hurts really bad inside is just, you know, something that I just can't tell you enough, like how much it means to me to do this, go back to that same gym where those boys are, because I go there every year for that same reason. And, you know, just how many other people that we can do that for, you know?
I like it. Making a difference, being an impact on the community and all those things. Well, last question before I get you out of here. Triple G or Canelo? Since you come from the boxing background, who you got?
Canelo.
I can't argue that, but I don't know, man. The thing that makes this fight so interesting, we were talking about this the other earlier. I said, you know, I don't buy many boxing fights anymore, but I actually want to watch this one, because the thing that makes this fight so interesting to me is the fact that even though I feel Canelo's probably going to win, the fact that he's just coming off of that loss to Bivol, and the fact that Triple G hasn't lost to anybody since he lost to Canelo, like, I don't know, man, if there were ever a time for Triple G to try to catch him slipping, I don't think it's going to happen, but it'll make me want to watch the shit nonetheless.
Right. No, you're right. It's like boxing sometimes gets a little watered down, you know, and it does, that happens. But when you get the true legends that are, you know, still like basically Triple G and Canelo right now, like coming in, it really gets fight fans excited, boxing fans. And I really love that they're still, you know, they're still going at it, and, you know, anything can happen. That's what, you know, that's what us as fight fans, we love. But, you know, at the end of the day, I know there'll be a lot of sad people if Canelo lose.
You can't argue that. I will say one thing. That guy's got the fan base like a son of a bitch, man. Like, when they come out, they pack the place. Don't matter where that guy fights at. Doesn't matter if it's on Cinco de Mayo or not. That dude has got money signs all over him.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I heard it was like Mexican Independence Weekend or something this weekend, and that's why the fight's scheduled for this weekend. So, you know, same thing. They're going to be in attendance with the mariachi band playing them out like usual, and the entrances in boxing are just next level, man. Like, his entrances are really, they take it up a notch. That's for sure.
For sure. It inspires me. Every time I like walk out, I'm like, I really like put like a lot of thought, to the point where even like Joey or other people are like, it's not that serious, Brayden. I'm like, yes, it is. When people have a great walkout, they notice and they remember that shit. And it's very, very important. And I always like really try to hone in on, like, you know, just where I'm fighting at, what's going on in my life, what are the circumstances. You know, sometimes you look at, like, you know, past beefs with the people you're fighting. But yeah, and it all goes together.
You're not wrong. I just bought tickets to WrestleMania, and that's one of the biggest things you think of every year is the entrances that you're going to see and all those kind of things. So I'll definitely be looking forward to, and we'll definitely be looking forward to seeing what you got coming out in your next fight. Well, I know you guys have got quite the drive back to Virginia, so I'm going to let you get out of here. Throw your social media out, let everybody know where to find you and all that good stuff. And we'll have to stay tuned to see if there's any news on Joey's side.
Yep, absolutely. Stay tuned. Me and him are busy, and we have some like exciting, fun adventures. We love you guys to all sharing with us. So it's going to be a super exciting rest of the year. I can promise you that. So definitely follow at Team Hart Beltran, you know, Instagram. I'm not really, I need to do better on my Twitter, but, you know, Instagram's where it's at. Come on, let's just keep it there. That, and, you know, I'm really excited to show you guys what's next. And trust me, I am not anywhere near finished in the aspects of having the best life possible. And I just want everyone to enjoy it and share along with me.
I like it. Well, you know, we're going to be checking it out. We appreciate the time as always. And I'm sure we'll be chatting with you again soon. Safe travels back to Virginia.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
guys
for the
so
time.
much. Always love talking to you guys, make me smile and good conversation. Thank you.
No
and
problem.
we'll stay in
Likewise.
touch.
Yes, sir.
Glad to hear it. Congrats, champ.
Thank you.
Peace. All right, Britton Hart Beltran.
Ooh.
Corey, what are your thoughts?
It's so nice to see the good people get one once in a while. You know what I'm saying? Like for all that grinding she's been doing in her years of the bare knuckling out there in BKFC, man, for her to finally essentially have her division open up and her be able to fight at her proper weight class. I know you brought up the whole question of 125, 115 and stuff. I truly feel like she would be best fit as like the Valentina Shevchenko role where she just holds down her division. I feel like that's where she's going to be best at is 115. And once BKFC continues to flush this division out a little bit more, I think notoriously throughout women's combat sports, it seems like 115 is one of the premier divisions. So I feel like there'll be no shortage of challengers here to come.
Can't argue that, dude. I think she definitely looked better. Obviously, at 115, she said she felt better. You know, she was moving forward the whole fight. Obviously, cardio and all that wasn't an issue at 115. We're definitely going to have to see what she does, whether that's going to be bouncing back and forth to what between 115 and 125, or what that's going to look like. But definitely looking forward to seeing what's next. And yes, I saw all the stuff in the comments. It'll be interesting to see if Joey and Josh Burns get at it as well.
Yeah. As for everybody that's still in here, we've had both. Well, not Joey, but we've had basically Joey on the show twice now because he's been sitting 2 feet away from Britain, and we're welcome to drama when it's brought up naturally, but to just bring it up for no reason, I felt was not needed in this one.
We're not going to just ambush somebody on here. Anybody who's from the Michigan area knows that we rock with Josh the Hammer Burns. I mean, that's not a question. I mean, we've had him on the show multiple times, and I'm looking forward to a good fight if him and Joey get into it as well. But like I said, I'm not going to bring Britain on the show and then just ambush somebody either.
If that is the matchup that's made, I'm definitely not against it.
I'm here for it. I like the matchup. Hell, let's see him put the fight together. But again, like I said, I mean, I know Josh Burns personally. I mean, I'm obviously we've been in his corner. We've had him, on the show before. But I'm not going to bring somebody else on here and then ambush them for a fight that doesn't even got to do with them.
Well,
I'm granted, obviously.
I'm just saying at the stages that they're at in their current state in their career, with Josh Burns having his couple losses over in BYB, if he does make his move back to BKFC, I feel like that would be a great matchup. With the same thing with Joey.
Hell yeah, fair matchup.
He unfortunately lost in his title bout and then lost the following one. So I feel like that would be a perfect matchup if that's something the BKFC is leading towards. But we'll see in due time, right?
Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm looking forward to that. Well, before we get to the fights that we got this weekend, obviously AEW Dynamite was last night, man. We had some stuff going on there too, bro. I mean, we had Swerving Our Glory, defended the tag titles. It's going to be them versus for round 2 against the Acclaimed. And for those of you who have been checking us out for a while, you do know that I was a big fan of the Acclaimed versus Swerving Our Glory at All Out. I said that it was one of my favorite matches of the weekend. I still stand by that. That was a great tag match. The crowd was hot for it everywhere you look. And I'm definitely ready to see them go for it, have them go for it for round 2. Now, I did find it a little interesting and a little puzzling, though, that they'd have them to defend the titles right before Grand Slam, with that being next week in New York, with them already hyping the match with the Acclaimed. That being said, go ahead, Corey.
I was just saying, I mean, clearly the powers that be though like the matchup as well because they were running it back so quickly. But
Well, I mean,
continue.
that crowd was hot, dude. I really thought
Yeah.
that the Acclaim might walk out of there with those belts, but I mean, shout out to Swerve and Keith Lee, man. I mean, that again, it was a banger. So we're gonna have to see what happens in round 2, and we're gonna have to see if Daddy Ass's scissoring can get the Acclaimed over the proverbial hill. But with that being said, we also had Chris Jericho versus Bryan Danielson 2 on that card, which did not disappoint at all. Bryan Danielson getting the dub in this one and advancing to the AEW World Title Tournament Finals at Grand Slam, along with, in the beginning of the show, you had Sammy Guevara versus Jon Moxley, which again was a banger. And, you had Moxley versus Danielson here. So you've got an all BCC final. And I mean, dude, that means regardless of how this plays out, when this is done, the Blackpool Combat Club is going to have the AEW Championship, the Ring of Honor Championship on Claudio, the Pure Championship on Wheeler Yuta.
Wow. I mean, talk about a takeover, huh? But I do want to pose you a question, right? I do want to pose you a quick question, Kyle, while we're on the subject of the tournament. That I feel like they did a pretty decent job of like building anticipation for and stuff, right? But I feel like let me clarify, given the circumstances that they were given with the whole thing, that how everything played out
was what happened with the CM Punk thing and all that.
How everything played after All Out. But are you surprised that they basically shoeholed the favorites into the finals? Or I feel like given the circumstances where you could have built the star of anybody through this tournament, and yet you guys chose to basically take who I thought was going to be the last two, and you made them the last two.
I disagree, and here's why, because I really feel like in a lot of ways Moxley really got the shit end of the stick of this. Because when you really think about the pandemic era for AEW, Moxley really put this company on his back. He was the champion for a while. He had great matches all through it, and a lot of it being when they didn't have fans. Mox really had the company on his back. And then, he lost the belt. So he lost the belt to Punk. Punk gets hurt. He wins the belt back and then loses it again at All Out. And then everything that happened at All Out happens. Now, you've got Moxley who, has been embroiled in all this stuff. I mean, if Moxley wasn't like, I think the fact that Moxley and Jericho were the two that got the, I think the fact that Moxley and Jericho were the ones that got the automatic bye to the second round, I don't have a problem with that, especially being that Moxley is the only multiple-time AEW champion. Well, I guess CM Punk is now, but I mean, he was the first multiple-time AEW champion. Jericho is Chris Jericho. I mean, he was the first AEW champion. So if you have to make a tournament on such a short notice like that, I don't mind if anyone was going to get a bye, so that you could make the tournament. And I understand why they're ending it at Arthur Ashe Stadium, because that was one of their biggest shows of the year last year. Mm-hmm. So I'm not mad at them for wanting. I get it. I totally get it.
I feel like it was such an opportunity, right? And I feel like
do you got any other names that you would have liked to have seen maybe inserted in there? Anybody that sticks out to you from what you've watched that you think should have been in there that wasn't in there?
See, I didn't get to watch the preliminary matches or whatever, the opening.
So I'll run down to you everybody that was in it.
I was gonna say, wasn't Darby one of the contenders?
Darby was in it, and so was Hangman Page.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like he was the one name I was going to use maybe, but they've already done a great job of including him in all the pay-per-views and putting him in great like showcase matches and stuff. So I don't know. I guess maybe to your point, maybe you are right, and maybe I'm just being a skeptical hippo eyes over here for no reason. But I just feel like I don't know. It was such an opportunity to do something.
Sure, I get what you're
different
saying. You could have
and-
put over one of the young guys, but I feel like in this situation, like with Moxley, like Moxley has been like the MVP for this company overall.
Mhm.
When you really think
Yeah.
about it, especially now that Cody's gone, and like given the fact that he had to kind of be stuck in the middle of all this because him and Punk were feuding when all this shit happened. And again, I'm not saying that means that I necessarily think that Moxley's going to win, but to not have Moxley in
The
that
final.
situation,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not saying he shouldn't have had to win his way in, which he did. He had a great match against Sammy Guevara. Again, like I said, it was a banger. Bryan Danielson, again, I don't have a problem with him being in there either because he hasn't won the AEW championship yet either. So who knows? Maybe he wins it. But
That's
either
that's
way,
a valid point. I forgot that. I forgot that he hasn't held the belt yet.
yeah, he's never been AEW champion yet. So, I mean, at least on the Moxley end of it, if there were anybody in AEW that, and Jericho, I give Jericho the same thing. If anyone was was going to get a bye to the second round with the short nature and how quickly this had to be thrown together, bro, like, I mean, for me,
I completely understand that. Those the two names that they selected. If you're gonna have to do a bye format where somebody's not in the first round, I completely understand their decision making on that. You know, you could say that those guys were the AFC and NFC, conference
right.
champions. So
And
they get the bye,
think of it in this sense. I just thought of this in what you were saying too. Like, think of it in this sense too. Like if let's say the matchups, like the spots in the seatings were like different, right? So let's say like it played out to where it was Jericho versus Danielson in the final, and then Danielson beat him and got his win back. That would be like the only story thing, but at the same time, I almost like the fact that they're doing it into the semifinals even better. Because Jericho kind of got the win at All Out, but he did it cheaply. Now this win means so much more because if he loses, Danielson's going to go towards the championship. And then not only does Danielson win, Danielson defeated him by submission. So
yeah.
Much more.
I guess that whole Danielson not holding the belt thing really made my point invalid, honestly.
I mean, I totally get what you mean. I mean, he's still one of the big names, but I do like that at least he fought his way from the first round too, though.
Yeah. And like I say, that it makes sense for who the buy thing was and stuff like that. I just feel like I said, given the opportunity, I feel like whenever you're given a huge opportunity where there's a complete opening, you should use that to your advantage of building somebody that's an unknown or at least a relatively unknown. But that being said, there's also like this might be the perfect time to get Danielson his first crack at the real belt and actually have it around his, give him his stint as the title holder, So my point's invalid, I guess.
No, it's not invalid because it makes sense because I mean that's the argument you usually have in wrestling is wanting to put somebody over newer, but I feel like as far as like big names that could have been put in that tournament, I feel like you really kind of had everybody that was like the pillars because Sammy Guevara hasn't necessarily been mentioned as far as the world title picture for a little bit, but like to have him in there and then have that banger with Moxley, after him and Darby went at it the week before. And speaking of Darby, dude, did you by any chance get to see what that motherfucker just tried with Nitro Circus? Like this guy's signed to AEW and still doing dumbass shit with Nitro Circus. So he gets up on the big X Games, like the giant ass half pipe that's got like the big gap in between it. And he went to go try to backflip a big wheel off of that bitch. And it spun. And so like he did a 360 into like this pad. And then he goes back up to try it again and does it. And I'm just like, dude, like this guy is like a signed wrestler to like the second biggest company in the world and like just does not give a fuck. It's like for those who don't know, I mean, go back to what he was doing before this, doing skateboarding stuff. That's why he has the relationship with Tony Hawk and all these things. And like, dude, I was just watching this video like, what the fuck, man?
I remember us hanging out one time, and you're like, he had came up in conversation about something, and you're like, I think I had brought up like, oh yeah, it's cool that he does like the stunts and stuff, but I like, as somebody who has skated in my past, even though I was never good, I was like, oh, I can appreciate that he's trying to use it as angle and stuff. And you're like, no, dude, it's no angle. And you like showed me his clips video, and I'm like, oh no, the dude's like fucking legit as they come, and he also just does the wrestling thing because that like is
that's what he
literally a
wanted to
passion
do.
of his.
Like,
yeah, it's just a passion of his. So it's like, all right, I'm in his corner. Like, got a fan.
yeah, man. Like I said, I mean, I always have liked Darby. Obviously, Darby didn't like one of our questions the last time we got to interview him. You can go check that out on the YouTube channel from the Starcast Scrum. I mean, like I said, though, I mean, apparently money don't matter to him. Money doesn't change Darby Allin. And if you get your taxes together for tax season, your money can be right with our homies over at G3 Payroll and Tax. You tell them Knockouts and 3 Count sent you Jack, and the homies over there will get you together. The link to their stuff is in the description. You can check them out on Facebook. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Count sent you. The only other thing I really got on the docket as far as the wrestling world goes, bro, is we saw NXT on Tuesday. It was the 1 year of NXT 2.0. At the end of the show, we saw not necessarily the black and gold come back, but they definitely were hinting at it. And we saw the 2.0 dropped. Soa Sikoa, say that quick, real 3 times. Soa Sikoa, who we've seen up there with his cousins, with his cousin Roman and his brothers, the New Day, Jesus Christ, the Usos. Good God. I need to go to bed, apparently, even though I've been chilling all day. But up there with his brothers, the Usos, and his cousin Roman Reigns, I mean, dude, he went back down to NXT and won the North American Championship off of Carmelo Hayes. So now the Bloodline's got even more belts. They've got the world belt, they got the undisputed tag belts, and they got the North American Championship from NXT. Like, the Bloodline, like, runs fucking WWE right now, dog.
It's crazy. We were just talking about that with AEW, and now here we are talking about it with WWE. Like, I mean, one of which being the family organization, and one of which is wrestling organization, but still, they've seemed to have found their way in this game to align these teams up in a certain way where we're seeing.
Well, this isn't even a team. These guys, it's all family. That's the thing.
I know.
The
That's
Samoan legacy just goes back so deep.
Yeah. I'm familiar with the story on these guys. I know.
Bruce, you came in late, bro. We were talking with Britt and Hart. You think it should be outlawed? I don't know about outlawed, but
so I
don't
know. The big thing is, right, is you see a lot of, because it's such a newer sport, right, and the competition level isn't always as high as we would like it, right? Yeah. So you see a lot of these guys where they're making their professional debut, or maybe they've fought on some, they have a 1-1 professional MMA record from 5 years ago, and they decided they're going to bring they're going to bring their ass back in the ring. Some of those matches are not great, and maybe the commission should do a better job of vetting some of these athletes.
See, but then again, on the flip,
let me flip, because on the other side of that, the upper echelons of their divisions, man, they've done a great job of really showcasing that, hey, you might not know this guy, but once you've seen that he's actually much more skilled than his opponent, man, you have no reason but to, follow him, or at least, like, there is no objective. He is just the better fighter out of these two on the night. And it's just like every other combat sport, like, there is danger, but these guys know that when they're signing up for it, So
well, and not only that, what I was going to say is on the flip side of that, you got like what we saw in the co-main event. Obviously, it didn't get to end the way we would have liked it, but you see a guy like Joe Riggs. I've been watching Joe Riggs fight since I first got into MMA years ago, and then he switches over to bare knuckle boxing is straight sleeping fools. It was unfortunate the way his fight ended with that headbutt, but yeah, dude. Like I said, so it goes both ways. But in reference to what I was talking about, I definitely have high hopes for what we can see with NXT. I've said it. I mean, I don't care who knows it. Call me a mark, call me whatever. Like, I got to be at a lot of those takeovers, bro. Like, NXT TakeOver was a good fucking time, and they were some of the best shows I've ever been to. And I'm putting that up with WrestleManias. Like, WrestleMania will always be WrestleMania. Like, you can't compare the two, but when you're talking about favorite shows I've ever been to, like, it's very possible that NXT TakeOver very well might be the show that I say that for.
And it's so funny, right? Because everybody, when they had first announced that Vince was taking back over and stuff, everybody was worried and stuff like that, but they were kind of still like semi-optimistic that it was gonna, maintain some type of same direction, and at least, there was clearly a ton of fanfare for the product, and then so the fans were hoping it would at least maintain some semblance of the same thing, and for them to go and flip it on their head the way they did, and then for now, to your point, it looks like they're trying to spin it back in that other direction. I'm curious to see how it all plays out yet again, like we were saying when Triple H took over just a month and a half ago.
It's been a couple months already. It's already been like 2 months. That's what's crazy. And I mean, dude, I can't argue. Like, Raw and SmackDown have been notably fucking better. Are there things that still need to be worked on? Sure. Not arguing that. But at the same time, has it not been more like, I can't sit here and tell you that watching it, I haven't been more genuinely interested to see what happens next from week to week.
Yeah, and that's all you can ask for, right?
But I mean, ultimately, that's what makes wrestling good. It's all in the chase, dude. It's all in the, oh shit, what's going to happen next? You hear Bubba Ray talk about it all the time. It's wrestling opera. You keeping the next thing, or fighting opera. So you keep, you're keeping the next thing of the thing out the way. And so, like I said, man, I'm interested to see what happens next with that. It'll be interesting to see what happens with AEW too. I mean, it just shows that there's issues. It doesn't matter the company. WWE had all their issues with the Vince McMahon stuff, and now AEW is having their issues with the CM Punk stuff and the Elite and all that. I mean, all this really shows is that it doesn't matter the company, dude. Like, they all have their issues, which is why I go back to what I said, and I feel like both should kind of just stay in their own lane. But I've said that multiple times. All right. We've only got a couple more things to talk about. We got UFC Vegas 60, and we've got Canelo versus Triple G. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm definitely more excited about this Canelo Triple G fight because I just feel like it's got fireworks all over it. But that being said, I am a big fan of this Corey Sandhagen fight as well. Hey, yo, Cody, you're in a little late, man. We just had the champ. Like I said, definitely go back. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you tell me what you think of our chat with the champ. Britain Hart Beltran, fresh off her win of the BKFC Strawweight Championship. We are getting to UFC Vegas 60 and the Triple G fight. So with the UFC fight, we've got a couple interesting ones on here. The main event being Corey Sandhagen versus Yadong Song, number 4 versus number 10. I really feel like this is a fight that's very important for Corey Sandhagen. I feel like he needs to win this fight to keep himself in that top 5, echelon, we'll say. And but there's some other fights that really interest me. For those of you who have been watching the UFC Dana White Contender Series, which next week is going to have Pesquez to the show, Mondo Gutierrez, as he goes to war September 20th on the Contender Series. Joe Pyfer, who had a nasty finish to get his contract on Dana White Contender Series, is making his debut in the UFC. I'm really looking forward to that fight. I was a big fan of what we saw with him. Another fight that sticks out on here just because I like to see him fight, even though it didn't go so well with the homie Miles. Andre Touchy-Feely is getting in there with Bill Algeo. I think that's going to be a fun fight. A guy who kind of isn't getting the the spotlight, the younger brother of Anthony Njokuani. You got Chidi Njokuani, who also came through the Dana White Contender Series, going to war with Gregory Rodriguez.
Yeah, I would argue that because, all right, so the initial fight that I was most excited for on this card, besides Corey Sandhagen, because I'm always a Corey Sandhagen fan, besides the fact we share names, dude is legitimately one of the most entertaining fighters.
He's got my name.
And we share names, so I'm going to be his fan. But no, he is legitimately one of the most entertaining fighters to watch. So of course, he's going to top the card for the right reason. But that being said, I was actually really looking forward to the Sadiq Youssef versus why did I just blank his name when I had it in my head 2 seconds before that? Why am I forgetting his name? But I was really looking forward to the initial co-main event that they had scheduled on this one, and the fact that this one's got canceled, man, it really. Giga Chikadze, that's who it was. I was really looking forward to that. I was really looking forward to that fight being the initial co-main, matchup. But it sucks. Giga had to pull out for unknown reasons, and they already rebooked Sadiq Youssef against somebody else. So that matchup's not one we're going to see. But either way, I was looking forward to that. I think Corey Sandhagen, to your point, definitely needs to get this win, man. Like, when you look at his last 5 fights that I've seen posted far too many times this week, he's 2-3 in his last 5. And when you think about Corey Sandhagen, that's not the first thing that comes to your mind, man. You think of somebody.
But he's been fighting dogs. Let's not
the
take any respect off the man's name.
But and I'm not trying to, but that's
they got this a pretty close fight. Like the odds, if the odds are similar everywhere, they've got Corey Sandhagen at a -190 and Yadong Song is a +160.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily surprise me. I mean, the only time we've seen Song Yadong he didn't put on the greatest fight against your boy Cody Stamann. He didn't put on the greatest fight, in my opinion, against Cheeto and still got the victory in that one. But other than that, man, Song Yadong's been absolutely legit the whole time he's been in the UFC. And being as young as he is, if I'm not mistaken, even at this stage in his career, he's only 25 or something still. And he's in that fight to see if he's going to be that next guy in the top 5 of the division. It's an interesting matchup. I feel like Corey Sandhagen has got the skills to be able to win this fight, especially when you look at what Song Yadong's good at. He's fairly quick, but I feel like Corey Sandhagen's going to be faster. And other than that, he's got a little bit of striking power, but Corey Sandhagen's been very elusive his whole career. So it's an interesting fight. I like the matchup. I really do like the matchmaking in this one, but I feel like Corey Sandhagen's going to be able to get it done. And I don't know if it'll be a finish or if we'll see it drug out through 5, but it'll be an interesting fight nonetheless.
I agree with you, dude. I mean, Corey Sandhagen fights definitely have the ability to, be a long fight. But like I said, I don't know, man. I like that fight. Let's go. Go ahead.
He also, before we do transition into the next one, he also did come out and say that the reason why the delay between this fight and his most recent fight before that is because he really wanted to round out a couple of holes that he felt that he had in his game and really solidify the couple things that he felt like would have won him those fights and potentially had him as the interim champ when he fought Jan. So I'm excited to see what he did work on in this year layoff, and it'd be an entertaining main event, that's for sure.
I agree. So who you got, Corey Sandhagen or Song Yadong?
Like I said, I think Corey will get it done. I don't know if it'll be a finish or through 5, but I think it'll be a finish because I feel like Song Yadong's going to try to throw that power and maybe get caught out of position. And like Corey showed in that Frankie Edgar fight, man, all it takes is putting yourself in the wrong spot for 1 second, and he'll hit you with one of them flying knees or something, and it's just game over. So I don't know.
I kind of am leaning Sandhagen in this one too. I don't really know how I see it being finished, but I think Corey Sandhagen's going to get the win. Chidi Njokuani versus Gregory Rodriguez. I'm going with Chidi Njokuani on this one.
Oh, you're going against RoboCop?
Yes.
Crazy. I feel like Gregory Rodriguez is.
Wait a minute. If I'm not mistaken, he's had a couple knockout wins, hasn't he?
Yeah.
In his last couple fights?
Yeah, he's the one that fought our boy Josh Friend back.
I remember.
Yeah, but that being said, I feel like Gregory Rodriguez has shown he's done a really good job as long as it doesn't get late into the 3rd round and he starts to gas a little bit. As long as we don't see that version, and as long as he's able to keep the fight on his terms, man, I feel like we'll see another domination in his corner. I feel like in Chawani I feel like the one thing that we have seen from him is he hasn't always done the greatest job of defending takedowns. And I feel like.
But do you think Rodriguez is going to go in there and try to bang with him, though?
I don't. Sorry, I answered too quick. Yes, I do. I thought you were going to say, do you think he's going to try to take him down? And I was going to say, no, I don't. So we'll see, man. Gregory Rodriguez, if he fights IQ.
Right, but you just said that Njokuani's biggest thing is that he doesn't like to fight on the ground. So, I mean,
yeah, that's
striking it out with an Njokuani brother may not be in your best interest.
No, absolutely not. So, but both of them can bang, though. But it's not like Gregory Rodriguez doesn't have hands himself. And like you said, doesn't he have a couple knockouts? Yes, he does. He has put quite a few men to sleep in the UFC. So either way, for a fill-in co-main event, this is they couldn't have found much better on the card, I feel like.
All right, so I went with Njokuani. You're going with Rodriguez on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and speaking of Josh Fremd, I'm looking forward to seeing him step back in the cage. If you guys are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and go check out some of those past episodes. Other notable fights on this one, you got Touchy Feely versus Bill Algeo. You know, I like Touchy Feely, but dude, I'm gonna go with Bill Algeo.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. If it looks like we are going a different way a lot on these picks then, because I, for one, feel like Touchy Feely is going to be able to right the wrongs that he's unfortunately had to deal with in his last couple fights, man. I feel like he's one of those guys that he's not the upper echelon of the division, but he is damn close. And when he shows
he's
up,
good. There's no arguing that.
That's when he shows up on his best, he's hard to deal with, man. And I feel like from all the media and stuff that I had seen this week, he definitely looks motivated. But that's one thing that Bill Algeo doesn't ever look like he lacks is motivation. So it's an interesting matchup. I like the matchup, but I feel like Touchy Feely is going to be able to get this one done.
I wouldn't be surprised by it. I like Touchy Feely. I'm not arguing that. All right. That's most of the notable fights we've got for UFC Vegas 60. As you know, we always lean a little MMA heavy, but like I said, for me, the main event of this weekend is really Triple G versus Canelo. As we said with Britain, this fight is just so interesting to me for a few reasons, dude, because it's just like I feel like so many people are stuck on, oh well, Canelo beat Triple G and blah 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 and all this too. Well, here's the thing that people aren't talking about. Canelo also has lost in between there. He just lost to Bivol. And then Triple G has been on a fucking tear since they fought. Like, he's been laying dudes out since him and Canelo fought. So essentially Canelo has been the only one that's been able to do anything with Triple G and with Canelo. And let's not forget that the first fight ended in a draw. So what if Triple G comes out here and says, fuck y'all, and shocks the world and takes out Canelo? Well, now you got him at 1-1-1, and you're going to have to fight again. So everybody's so quick to say that Triple G is, just going to get ran through. Like, we hear a lot of people saying put respect on somebody's name here lately. Well, I think we need to put some fucking respect on Triple G's name.
I mean, you're definitely not wrong, right? Like, as somebody who watched that first matchup, I was like, wow, Canelo lost. It actually happened. And then they went to the scorecards, and it was a draw because it's boxing. And I definitely felt like 100% Triple G won that first matchup. And just looking at the fight, maybe I didn't watch it back a million times and stuff like that, but on the initial viewing, if I was a judge, I was definitely scoring that for Triple G. The second matchup, though, I felt like Canelo, I don't know if he figured something out in their first matchup, if age just caught up to Triple G a little bit, or whatever the circumstance be. But the second matchup was not quite the same. Triple G didn't quite have as much for Canelo on the night, man. It seemed like definitely a fight that I thought Canelo won. It was close, but I thought Canelo actually did win that second fight. And so now here we are going into the third matchup. And to your point, Gennady Golovkin has went on a hell of a streak. But that being said, I feel like Canelo, I feel like we're going to see an extension of what happened in the second fight. I don't know if he figured something out or whatever the circumstances were, but I feel like Canelo is going to go in there and probably Canelo him to a dub again, I feel like.
I mean, let's not act like Canelo can't finish somebody, but at the same time, let's also, again, I just feel like at the end of the day, people need to put some respect back on Canelo's name. The guy clearly draws people every time he fights. He's fought everybody there is to fight. When you're really looking at who he's lost to Floyd Mayweather, he lost to Bivol. He's had the stuff with Gennady Golovkin, but if you're going to lose, like, I'm just saying, like, lose, Floyd Mayweather is 50-0 for a reason. And if you want to say that it's because motherfuckers fixed fights, you're an idiot.
Or going up 3 weight classes, trying to just snag belts from every possible person that you can.
Because that was all fixed.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. I understand boxing's got some of its, got its druthers, but I feel like you can say that in all fights. But when a guy wins championships at multiple weight classes and fights a completely different style at the end of his career versus the beginning of his career, that just, to me, like, spells a guy's skills. So for Canelo to lose to a guy like that who's beaten Cotto and everybody else, I think that pretty much says everything you need to say. But
and the opposite of a weight bully too. It's not like he tried to cut a ton of weight and go down. He was climbing up. He was going against significantly bigger opponents and going in there and snatching their belts. So it wasn't a weight bully thing by no means.
No, and that's why, like I say, people will say what they're gonna. Hell, Floyd Mayweather's getting ready to fight again the day before my birthday on September 24th. So, fucking A. Floyd, go make your money, dog.
It's such a weird thing seeing Floyd still do his thing with these exhibition fights, and it's like, I don't know.
And he gets away with it and makes bank. Bank.
Is it a Saudi Arabia or like a Middle Eastern thing? Where
looks like another Risen guy again.
Yeah, okay, so it's a Japan money thing, because I don't know who's paying him this big money for these guys that he's fighting anymore.
He got paid when he fought Logan Paul.
But that one at least makes some semblance of sense because it's like it doesn't make sense in the boxing terms, but it makes sense in the fact of like Logan Paul's a known asset that can like be a B-side that'll sell some, get some viewers, get some eyeballs on the card. These guys in Ryzen and stuff, like I'm a hardcore fight degenerate, man. I watch everything I can get my hands on in Ryzen. You got to have like a whole package through Japan television to watch. I've tried to watch their events. You just can't for the most part. So it's an interesting move to me. I guess it's Mr. Worldwide type of move, right? Because you don't know him here,
this man
mean...
is just trying to soak up all the bags he can get before he puts his gloves completely down, because two things. Number one, he's getting paid because he ain't coming to Japan not to get paid. Number two, I mean, again, no disrespect to his opponent, because you're stepping in there with one of the greatest boxers of all time, if not the greatest boxer of all time. So, but let's just face it, this guy isn't on the same level as Floyd Mayweather. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But
I mean, look at what happened. I don't know if you remember last time they did this Ryzen event, but they built the hell out. I still remember the Tenshin Nasukawa or whatever
I remember
they built up, and Floyd went in there and whooped his ass for about 90 seconds, and the fight was over. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see another fight similar to.
Hey, man, like I said, I ain't mad at another man for getting his bag. Well, Speaking of people getting in their bag and putting on good shows, again, shout out to our guys from Circle 6. They had a great event here on Friday in Detroit. They had it go down in Cleveland. We saw RSP turned on Atticus Kogar in Cleveland after winning that belt. Man, it's crazy how these belts make people jealous motherfuckers. Man, shout out to Circle 6 and the Dread King and Darren McCarty for coming on the show this week. If you didn't get to check out D-Mac coming back through with the Dread King, you need to, because I felt like that was a great show. Corey, I mean, before we get out of here, I mean, what were some of your highlights from Circle 6 and this week of shows? And again, like we said, past guest of the show, Mondo Gutierrez is going to be on Contender Series. So after you're done watching us on Tuesday, that's where you should be at.
I know I'll definitely be tuning in to watch our boy Mondo get his contract that he's earned to this point. But honestly, my biggest surprise, I guess, out of the week, and I've met Logan in person once or twice before this, but having him on the show, that was the first time I've had him, an extended conversation with him. For somebody that is in a team called Midwest Scum, he's a very thoughtful, intellectual type of dude. I definitely enjoyed our conversation with Logan. D-Mac's always a good time, as always. Hopefully you guys have a good time watching the Lions get a dub this weekend.
The Lions game is going to be either a really good time or a really good story. We just don't know if I can tell said story on the show yet. We're going to have to go to the Lions game and find out.
And that being said,
fuck around and find out.
Circle 6, after attending their event and dealing with Mike in both on the show and in person, I wish nothing but the best for those guys. Like I had said with after about the second or third show, basically after we had Atticus on, and once we've talked about it ever since, them boys must be doing something right if every single one of the people that we've talked with about them has done nothing but talked well about them. So it's like I had already brought up the whole Elias Theodoro thing with the Tuesday show, but whenever you hear somebody, in passing or whatever the case be, or somebody starting to build stuff up or whatever the case be, whenever you hear the whole community speak highly of this person or this organization in this circumstance, they must have been doing something right. So I definitely feel like Circle 6 is heading in the right direction. So hopefully they can continue their growth, and excited to see them once they work their way back into Detroit later this year.
I mean, I was going to say, you heard what Mike said. It might be November, and if they come back in November, we're going to have to be involved. So all the more reason you need to hit subscribe, hit that like button, hit the comment button, share this motherfucker, tell people to watch it. And until next week, and in the in-between time, and all that good stuff, Lions, this is the first time that you motherfuckers have been favored in 24 straight games, and I'm going to be in attendance for this game. So do me a favor. I need you to get this dub real quick.
Whichever lines we need, they're on this hat somewhere. Whichever ones we need.
Corey's not rally capping it. He's double capping it, but there's no cap. We need a Lions win this week. Tune in this Tuesday to hear me either melt down about their loss or be singing the praises about my story at Ford Field. All the more reason you got to hit that subscribe button or you ain't going to hear me one way or the other. So until next time and in the in-between time, peace.